Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the London session recap for Euro Dollar on Tuesday, the 16th of August 2022. So hopefully, as you can already hear, the audio quality should be a little bit better than recent content, as I think I've managed to fix the issue with my microphone. So I am praying to the audio gods that this does work and I don't record for however long this takes and then find out it doesn't. But anyway, without further ado, Euro Dollar. So I've brought this back to bar replay of how it was looking at the start of this trading day. Very simple analysis, right? We're clearly bearish. We've pulled back up to premium supply into this range. We knew there was higher probability or higher probable supply levels above, even a refined level, etc., etc. No inducement. But at the end of the day, price doesn't have to reach those levels, right? So if we come into a level like this, which we understand a swing lower high could form from, and we start to get lower time frame confirmations, then by all means we can start to look for those shorts in anticipation that that will be the end of the swing pullback, that this could be where the daily swing lower high forms, and then we can look to potentially target that weak swing low. Now, that said, although we can still do that, for me, the framework I follow, I don't have true confirmation that this low is going to go until we get the daily internal structure shifting back bearish. So again, what do I mean by that? Well, we have the internal structure shifting bullish here, where we get that bullish internal break of structure. So from an internal structure perspective, that is a daily strong internal low. Okay, so it's only once we get a daily break and close below that low that is when I have true structural alignment, where the daily bearish internal structure is realigned with the daily swing structure, right? And then we expect that to come down and take out that low. But of course, we don't have to wait until that happens in order to get short. We just have to be aware of both possibilities. And obviously the bullish possibility would be that that reaction from this level was simply just to facilitate an internal pullback into this demand, all of this range demand here, into this strong daily internal low, where potentially that pullback could still continue to the upside. Okay, but obviously we got a pretty strong rejection from here, and yeah, I mean we still haven't broken this low, but that will remain to be seen. Now we did get a daily bearish chock, so that is the first signal. But remember, for me, I just use a chock to signal an internal pullback has started to ended, but it's the IBOS that I need to signal the start and end of a swing pullback. Okay, so yeah, basically there is the possibility that this could continue to the upside, but there's increasing likelihood, especially with the way price is moving on the lower time frames, with the strong rejection and just how bearish we are overall, pulling up to premium supply. Swing structure is more strong, more important than any other type of structure, right? And that's going to always take precedence over anything else. So when we drop down to the 4-hour chart, kind of similar price action in terms of we have this large bearish swing range. We'd obviously pulled up above the EQ of that leg. Okay, and then we didn't mitigate any super refined supply, but we came into that daily supply range. Now I have this as my internal structure. I've spoken about this at length in multiple pieces of content, so I don't want to dive too much into that. But essentially, this is what I viewed as my internal structure. Okay, and obviously the internal structure shifted bullish, so we continue to buy from those strong internal lows. Okay, so at this point, price is coming into this strong internal low, and I've obviously have it labeled as the 4-hour strong internal low here. And there is the expectation that this strong 4-hour internal low could hold, right? Just like I was saying on the daily chart, for then price to continue to the upside. But what you have to realize is, when to pay attention to that more so than other times. And what I'm trying to say is, well, when price was coming from here and putting down into this strong low, this has a higher probability of holding than this one. Why? Well, what is this coming off? What's happened? Well, all we've done at this point, yeah, we've pulled above into premium prices on the 4-hour range, but we haven't really mitigated anything that significant. Whereas at this point, we've come into that daily premium supply, right, in with the prior 4-hour supply range, swing range, I should say, and within the daily range as well, right? So there's a ton more supply up in these levels, and in this level here, right, the 4-hour supply range and the daily 4-hour previous swing range, right, and then the daily swing range as well. We've come up to much. Let me just keep it more simple, right? We've pulled back to a level in which there's a much higher probability that that 4-hour and daily swing pullback is going to have ended. That's all I'm trying to say, right? More so than when we came into here. So at this point, it's a lot lower probability that this low is going to hold. We've built all of this sell side liquidity, right? Tons of liquidity will be built behind these corrective lows where we've had all of these mitigations. And obviously the strength at which we sold off, right? You can see that, right? move in, and then a big, strong, almost vertical V shape back down. So whilst although this low could hold, right, shorts are very much on the cards, and really what I need to see, remember we're talking about this, just zoom in a little bit, ignore these things, are just the annotations that have kind of just glitched out. Yeah, like even if you just keep it simple, even if you have this as your swing range, or you're just zooming into the internal range here, right, this being these two orange lines, once we get this internal of the internal price action doing this, right, what do I need to see to give us confirmation that this low is going to hold? Really, we want to see that shift bullish. So whether it comes up here and breaks that level, then we expect those small internal ranges to hold until it takes out the high, or potentially we come in, right, the low holds, we don't break it, and then we get that break there. Okay, now we can start thinking about targeting that high. But until then, any reaction points on these demand levels, against this, really I'm just kind of thinking short-term little pullbacks, right, on the M15, and then probably most likely going to take out this low and beyond. But yeah, only once we actually get the break and closure below here, then will we have that true structural alignment to then come down and take out the overall week low. But yeah, main point I wanted you guys to take away from that is, although you'll see like me saying and labeling it as a 4-hour internal strong low, that is very much the case. But you have to understand, looking at the overall bigger picture, the entire narrative of when, how much importance to weigh on that in each scenario. And that's why back here, when we had this pullback into this level, this had a higher chance of holding compared to what we have here now, because this hasn't coming off anything. Okay, even a better way to think about it is, think about the objective of price, right? So why did the internal structure shift bullish here? Well, it shifted bullish to facilitate that overall swing pullback. That's the reason why this structure shifted bullish. So if we've pulled back to a level in which there's a high probability that the swing pullback is going to have finished, well, now the internal structure has done its job. So now it's much more likely to then shift bearish to now do what? To now fulfill its next objective, which is to take out the swing low, right? Because it's shift bullish to facilitate the swing pullback. Swing pullback is now likely complete because we've come to a decent area of 4-hour and daily value, right? In the premium level of the range, etc., etc. So now it's much more likely to shift bearish to fulfill its next objective, which is to get that next pro swing trend run, right? To take out the 4-hour week swing low. Now that might not happen. This low could hold, I don't know, but I think it's looking very likely that that's going to go, okay? So that's just what you have to have aware in the back of your mind, always being open to both the bullish and bearish possibilities. So I'm just going to fast forward to the M15 price action to kind of around pre-Frankfurt, and then we can kind of reanalyze that. So this is a price action through Asia, and I bring it back to about here. So in fact, let's bring it back just one. So at this point, I've just zoomed in a little bit you can see my M15 swing structure here. Just makes a little bit more sense for me to kind of use slightly tighter ranges, because otherwise it can just get a bit unnecessarily complicated when you have internals of the internals of the internals. So I'm going to try and keep it reasonably simple, and for me this was the current swing range that we were within. Now we'd come into, let me talk about actually the 4-hour demand, because this is a key point as well that I forgot to mention, and now price has jumped forward, which is fun. But at this point, right, we don't really have any 4-hour demand that's that great. Yes, we have this sort of demand chain going on, right? But for me, this is just a wick demand. You can see if you take the distal of the candle, it was already mitigated where this demand was, and it's already caused this move. So this is just a little wick. Typically these don't hold, or they don't tend to provide a reaction that goes on to cause that higher low. Of course they can, but at this point my expectation is it's just going to provide a small reaction, potentially into the next level of supply, to then continue down. Right? Really, I needed one of these full single candle pivot candles to hold, or even that inside bar there, which we can see it didn't. Price smash through. That's where there's more likely to be enough orders or enough demand in there to cause a move like that. So when we just have a little wick like this, especially when the distal was already mitigated and caused that move, I'm not expecting much to happen from this at all, which is what I'd put in a lot of my pre-session analysis. If you guys can see that. So that's something you need to bear in mind as well when we're coming into this level. From an M15 perspective as well, it's just a wick, right? The distal was already mitigated. It's already caused this move. The demand that was from within here. So again, not expecting much to happen from this level at all. But what does the market give us from an M15 perspective? Well, we had a nice equal lows build during Asia, right? Those lows then get swept, and then we got a bullish IBOS to the upside, an internal breaker structure. So what does that IBOS signal? Well, that signals the start of the swing pullback, right? So now we can expect potentially those bullish internal structures to at least cause that swing pullback up to some premium levels of supply, right? And then we could ideally look for that swing lower high to form to then take out the swing low, right? That would have been like the textbook perfect scenario for today's sessions, right? Now, it wasn't that we also, it wasn't just the fact that like we came into demand and got a bullish IBOS. It was how it all happened. It was the liquidation, right? The mitigation into that extreme wick, and then, pretty much a V-shaped reaction. So for me, this was looking very, very clean. There was a lot of confluence to anticipate that we may get a pullback. I mean, even if just looking to take a quick long from in here, like up into this supply here, like that would have been enough on the M1, right, to get some decent profits, or at least to remove your risk, ideally trying to target up to these levels. So yeah, when I saw this, that's pretty much, looking super clean. Unfortunately, this level, which was why I would have been happy to look for longs in the M1, that was already mitigated prior to the Frankfurt Open. Now at this point here, this is where we got this. I'm gonna lose you there. Okay, cool. So that will be our M15 strong internal low, and essentially this is our week high. Why is that the case? Well, this low did what? It caused the break of the strong high, it caused that bullish IBOS, so now this becomes a strong internal low, and this is currently a weak internal high because it hasn't taken out the low. So when we come back into here, this was like, during my session hours, I'd be more than happy to hit this, looking for my M1 entry, or you may want to consider taking an M15 entry, right? And that can be a nice trade, counter trend trade to try and target up towards these highs. You could probably get 5R there at least on the M15. Now, we did obviously chock bearish to facilitate that pullback. So in these instances, you could wait for a bullish chock, right? And once we get that bullish chock, what does that signal? That signals the end of that internal pullback. And that's even more confirmation that this should be a weak high and price should then stay bullish to take out that high, right? So when at this point, when we got that kind of coming into Frankfurt Open, we got that bullish change of character, it was looking even more promising that high could be taken out. Because obviously from a liquidity perspective, there's always the possibility that it could just be a sweep of these highs to then continue lower, right? Because this level here did cause a bearish chock. But for me, that's more hindsight. The more probable scenario with all of the frameworks that we use is this is a strong low that took out that high. The internal structure has now shifted bullish, and now we're expecting that internal structure to stay bullish to facilitate that swing pullback. And then even more confluence is the fact that, yes, we chocked bearish to facilitate that internal pullback. And now that we've chocked bullish, what does that bullish chock signal? It signals the end of this pullback. And now we would expect this fractal structure to stay bullish until it takes out that weak high. So for me, that bullish chock then confirms this level is holding. It gives us another level of fresh M15 demand to then work with coming into the session open, the Frankfurt Open. Now, yes, if it just wicks it and it doesn't close above, it's not the strongest. But for me, that's a valid level of demand. It's because it caused a bullish change of character. It's part of this demand, but it's the whole bigger picture as well. Like I just had decent conviction, right, that we're going to get at least a break of this high right at close, and we can try and target that movement there. For me, the risk reward was favorable enough, and I'm just looking for that quick move. And the M15 looked super clean. So if we jump down to the M1, now the M1 wasn't that clear at the moment in terms of like any of this. But we have what? We have this fresh M15 POI. So this is literally how my chart would look. Now, we've got the extreme down here, which should probably be the most ideal level to look to get involved in, because essentially, remember, always have the M15 in the back of your mind. Like that's what I'm paying most attention to, right? Again, let's go back over it. Just super, super quickly. At this point, how is it looking? We've had the pullback into that strong low. Sorry, here we go, right? Pull back into the strong low. We've then chocked, which should signal that higher low is going to be in place. And now I'm looking to get long in this demand, right? As soon as price taps into this demand to try and target that high at a minimum, and ideally see if we can push it a little bit higher. So then when we drop down to the M1, okay, I'm basically just looking for an entry within this blue box. So risk entry would be targeting entering it on here, which I'll talk about in a minute. But basically I didn't set anything at this point. I'm just looking for price to develop as we come into Frankfurt Open. So at this point, it's about another 15 minutes. So let's bring it to around sort of just before 7 a.m. London time. Okay, so we're coming to here. So at this point, what's happened? Well, I'm thinking this would be ideal. We can get long from down here, but I can start to paint a bit of a picture as well of that. We've come into this, I'm going to get extreme level here, okay, which also flipped this level. I mean, that's not super important for me, but it's just another tick in the box. You can see like what's happened here. The M5 actually is kind of what looked quite clean. I remember this point, yeah, because we had this inside bar within here. So essentially we caused the bullish M15 chock, which then created this blue box, that new M15 POI. After that chock, price then came down into this M5 level and then started to build the sort of M1 demand chains on the M1. So that's basically what I was saying, thinking, okay, maybe we're not going to come for this extreme at this moment. So started to draw these on, right? You can see we came into that level. So this is all pre-session, so I wasn't actually looking to enter on this. We had an M1 confirmation entry off that level, and then you can see we reacted from this demand. So I can start to see, potential longs happening from here. And then we move it forward to Frankfurt Open. Okay, boom, volume's kicking in now. That bullish intent, typically when that can open on the session open, price isn't going to come all the way down here. It's just going to keep going and kind of shoot off with that volume kicking in. So at this point, when we had that intention, we basically had a swing breaker structure on the M1, right? Price spinning back and breaking to the upside. We've got those series of demand chains. I thought it was pretty unlikely price was going to come back at this point, and I was then happy to take the risk of entering around here. I believe I had a 2 pip stop on the dot. That gave me more than enough stop protection. And this was basically the trade that I looked to get involved with. Just got tagged in and moved up. Now at the moment I use a trail to break even so imagine price pulls back, right, and your entries here, you get tagged in. When price breaks the high of where that pullback started from that tagged me in, when it breaks here, that's when I then trail to break even. That's what I'm using at the moment. Now in this instance, where did the pullback start from? Well, it started from here, because that's where the candle was when I set my entry. It pulled back and then it broke the high in one candle. So I did the bait setting basically my break even straight away, because that's basically, if you look on the seconds time frame, right, make it clearer. What happened? See how we pulled back, tagged me in, and then broke that high? If that was the M1, now I would have trailed to break even, but we didn't get that. So I don't know. I don't have a rule for this just yet, but I was kind of like, well, I want to see M1 structure. So I just left my stop open at this point. And then we pulled back and then we broke up. So when we broke this high, now I tried to break even. So just above break even, right? So risk is removed. I was thinking, okay, this is looking pretty good. Everything's basically happened as I expected it to be happening. Right. Remember, this is what I'm trying to play. We've come into that 4 hour and M15 extreme demand. I'm not expecting this to do a lot. I'm just expecting it to facilitate an M15 swing pullback into these levels to then look for the short. The M15 internal structure has shifted bullish, right, which signals it's a good signal that M15 swing pullback is going to happen. We've come into that M15 demand, right, where I wanted to get long, but it already happened before the session opened. The fractal structure had then shifted bullish with the chock, which then signals that the internal pullback has now finished and we're now ready to take out this high. So we expect all of these, essentially demand to hold until it takes out that high, which is what we got. So it's a bit quick to see, but essentially once we got that chock, price then pulled back into the M1. The M1 then broke to the upside. I then got in a very quick long within here, and then price has shooted up. So this is where I was looking for price to take out this high, right, for a quick move. But if we drop back down to the M1, we can kind of play this forward. We can see what happened. Price then failed to take out the high, and as soon as we kind of started coming back down, I thought, okay, maybe I'm going to take out for break even here, which is what ended up happening, and then we came down. So then at this point, I thought, okay, let me reassess. Let me look at the M15. You can see how it plays out a little bit, which is a bit annoying. But if I bring it back, the way I viewed the M15 here, maybe this is something I need to dig into a little bit more actually. But I basically had got in initially on this mitigation here. So we bring it back 2 candles. So at this point, right, we have a fresh M15 demand that is unmitigated. And then I basically, in the next candle, price taps into it, pushes up, and then that's where I've got long on the M1. So now, technically, this zone is mitigated. But how I viewed it then, once I got taken out of break even on that initial trade, was I was kind of viewing this, well, actually, maybe price will just push deeper into the extreme or the EQ, right, because that can often happen, right, and then continue to the upside. But maybe this is something I need to dig into, is just kind of what I'm thinking here about my journaling, right? Maybe because it's already mitigated in this instance, maybe I no longer want to look at this POI. It's just something to think about. So then as price came into this level, this is basically what I was looking to capture, was this move, right? Because this can often happen, even though I had that initial mitigation. Because I'm kind of viewing that just as one M15 leg up, right? That causes the chock. Now price comes in, and this is the move I want to catch to the upside. So I know it's played forward a little bit here, but what I basically did was set my order on the very extreme down here. Okay, this nice M1 inside bar, right? But as we can see, we didn't get tagged. So at that point, okay, I can see we just rejected from the M1 demand range, which essentially is your very clean M5 candle. Remember that I pointed out at the start that I didn't think we were going to come back to. but that's basically what we tapped into. I shot off to the upside. So now I'm thinking, okay, it's very unlikely price is going to want to come back from the extreme. And even if it does, it's basically already reacted from this range. So, the majority of the orders have been filled. So, okay, cool. Nice big volume, or nice big momentum, I should say. We've had the bullish change of character. So now I'm basically looking to play the confirmation entry of that level, right? Off the extreme and looking to get involved. Now, the problem with this isn't it's just weird candle formation of the zone. It just doesn't look clean to me when you've got a big wick here. I'm always a bit hesitant with these, but it's just because in my experience, again, it's anecdotally, I don't have hard data to back anything up, but I just typically don't like entering off these. Like, it's just like that. I'm not going to just enter on that because, well, there's going to be stuff in this wick. Like, it's all just a little bit unclear because essentially what's coming up is it's come in, reacted, kind of had a little bit of a pullback here and pushed up. So what I did is I wanted to enter on the distal of that inside bar, but I wanted to cover that low, but I was just hesitant with this. Like, there's no inducement in the leg. It didn't really sweep any liquidity within here, but then I was like, okay, well, it has swept all of these lows. It's coming off this extreme level. Don't overthink it too much. Let's get in long and then anticipate that move. It's left liquidity, buy side liquidity for us to target, and that's essentially how I got into this trade. So then we built some nice inducement. Didn't want to chase it at that point, and then got tagged in and then got stopped out shortly after. And then we never got, because the other thing that I was thinking about was, okay, well, maybe we'll come into this extreme at this point. Maybe we'll react from here. So I took a loss there, by the way, just in case that wasn't clear. And then potentially, I was thinking about this, whether I would have taken it, I don't know, but I was looking to see, okay, will we at least get a bullish chock to confirm the extreme? Because I'd cancelled the order at that point. And if we had got that, then yeah, maybe I would have considered another one, but it was looking very, very messy at that point. But yeah, it never gave me the confirmation entry and then dumped straight through. I sold off with quite a lot of momentum there. So yeah, there was a flip, but not really something that meets my plan there to get short. So on the M15, you can see now that the internal structure shifted back bearish. So arguably you could have this as a swing pullback. It's kind of one of those ones that are a little bit in between, depending on how aggressive you want to be. Okay, so now this becomes a strong high. Why? Because it took out the low, right? It caused a bearish IBOS. So this become our strong low. And what we essentially now have is a very clean M15 flip, right? So you could do it from the low of the reaction to the top of the reaction, but I just kept it pretty simple there to the M15 inside bar. Okay, so now we can look for the continuation of this move as we come back in. So there's your M15 risk entry if you wanted to take that. We haven't quite come into that M15 extreme, but just expecting this move to continue here. And then if we drop down to the M1, just kind of waiting for price to come in and see if it gives us a confirmation entry. So we start to sell off with a decent amount of momentum here. So look left, what are we coming off? Okay, this zone makes sense, right? Nice unmitigated M1 wick that had clean structural liquidity in front of it, aka inducement, right, with these highs. So buy stops get used into this level. So what do I need as a bare minimum on my entry time frame? I need to see that bearish M1 shock before I can consider an entry. We have this M1 demand from within here where we potentially could see a reaction from the flip. So let's see how this develops. Okay, so we start having like quite a clear pullback, and then we come down and then we have the chock. So yes, when that happens, I will simply just then refine it. We can clearly see it's reacting to the range. This is a very, very clear flip for me. So that was what I was looking at. And also we sold off with a lot of momentum. So this flip for me is super clear. That for me is where like the momentum's come in to break this level. Yes, there is an unmitigated extreme, and I'm always going to be kind of wary of that, and it's not ideal that that's there because price obviously could use the flip as inducement and mitigate the extreme. But for me, this is just super, super clean. Now, my current definitions, this flip does sweep liquidity because it takes the high of the inside bar. Okay, so essentially the logic behind that is that price came down, it came up, it came down, and then essentially the inside bar means that there was a range, right? And then price sweeps the high of the inside bar and then comes down. So it's not my favorite type of liquidity sweep. It's probably the worst, kind of the lowest probability one I have. But that does meet my current rules for a sweep. What would have been a lot more ideal is obviously if price had swept this high, right? If price had to come up and taken that high here, then I would have been all over that all day long, right? That's when you got like a super, super clean sweep. But yeah, just having the inside buy there does actually meet my rules. Let's have a look on say the 15 second. I might kind of hope you to show you why, and that's why, because it basically, I can get rid of this one, sweeps this high here. That's basically what we're looking at, okay? So at this point, I set my order on the extreme of the reaction leg, right here. Now the other thing as well is it's not technically M1 inducement, but I knew on the 32nd that that was a pullback, and that just was another little tick in the box that could be some nice inducement for this level. But yeah, nothing too major. So I initially set my entry order here, and it was all looking good. I thought, okay, ideally, like when we get the flip and there's an unmitigated extreme, I like to kind of get tagged in straight after the chalk, so it does that. Now at this point, I was okay, it's looking pretty clean. And then it started to sell off, I think, even more, if memory serves me correct. And then we came into this level, right? So it's quite a fast sell-off at this point, which I don't always like. Like I was saying, typically I like there to be the chalk, and then I get tagged in straight away. And then it goes down. Because now I'm a bit more debating, like, is the flip going to be used for inducement for the extreme? And then also because of, like, the messy session here, right at the break even, then I had a missed trade or no tag, and then I took the loss there. I don't know, just mindset wasn't really on point, but kind of felt like maybe I was... Sometimes when I take that many, or I have a lot of activity with setting orders and stuff, it's a bit more active than my typical session. And I guess, I don't know, sometimes I start to think I'm over trading, or, you take the loss, you start to doubt or hesitate things. And then my brain starts sometimes looking for reasons why to not get in a trade. And as we came into this level here, which is a bit cleaner on M5, you can see this M5 demand, and we started to come off with a decent amount of momentum. My brain's just started thinking, okay, now I want to cancel the order, even though this M5 demand hasn't done anything, hasn't broken any structure up here. It's nothing. It's just to facilitate this internal pullback from within here. But as we start to come up, I think it was the next candle with momentum like that, like this, I just cancelled the order because I thought this was going to be inducement for the extreme. I was going to wait for a confirmation entry from either one of those. But yeah, don't be scared of the momentum if there is, all of the confidence there, because this demand is just to facilitate that pullback into that level. And then just that, at that point, I'm done for the session. This is just building equal lows to do what? To provide sell side liquidity to target for price to come in and come down. So yeah, I did consider potentially setting an entry order from within here, but yeah, I was just kind of like, once I'd missed that move, which is the move I want to be in, at that point I was just done. I was like, I don't want to force anything at this point, so I just left it. But yeah, I do think that really is a trade that does meet my plan, essentially playing the DCE here. That's your strong M1 high. That would be a valid trade if anyone was thinking about setting an order here. No inducement, didn't sweep in liquidity, which I guess isn't great, but that's kind of just if you want to follow the strong structure here. That would meet my plan personally. Nice, relatively equal lows to target as well, but yeah, that would have been a no tag. And that's the end of the session, and you come into that extreme demand, and obviously we expect an internal pullback after a break of those lows, which I don't know what that brings us to now. But yeah, not really that great value to be looking for shorts at this point, and it's during the London low. So yeah, bit of a long one, but hopefully you guys took some value from that. Yeah, it's always a bit tricky when you have a flip and an unmitigated extreme. I think I probably would have had a bit more confidence holding it if this high here had swept that high there. But with that inside bar, that does meet my plan for a flip that sweeps. It's just not the best. And then yeah, when we came to that level, I think maybe if I hadn't taken the activity that hadn't happened here, I maybe wouldn't have doubted it as much. And also conscious of as well on the 4-hour chart, like we're coming right into the strong low. So even though I probably do expect this low to go, it's not amazing value to be forcing shorts from within there, but it's more of just that intra-session trading, more intra-session, momentum that you're following here. And whilst we keep melting, why not just keep following that? So let's do a little bit of a forecast for New York. Ultimately, I do expect this low to go, but obviously don't assume structure, right? We do need that confirmation of once we get that break. If we do get that break, then it's just game on, right? If we're expecting those 4-hour bearish internal ranges to hold until we take out that low. Probably to have confidence with longs at this point, I'd want to see at least that 4-hour chalk, but even then it can just be, right, this would kind of be more of the internal structure at this point. So that 4-hour chalk there could just be to facilitate a pullback into these levels of supply to then continue down. So, yeah, I wouldn't be holding any longs if we do get that with too much confidence trying to swing for the fences with those. I do think, like, as things stand, this is looking pretty likely that that's going to be the end of the swing pullback, and we're ready to now go and smash those lows. But yeah, let's see what New York brings. You could potentially have this, depending on what your rules, as a swing pullback, but I'd probably be more inclined to just leave that like that. For now, let's see, this would be the internal high. I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. That would be your strong high for now. That would be your next very good structure, right? So yeah, you could basically just look to keep following it. It's a little bit messy now, like the distal's already mitigated here. It's all just getting a bit tight and choppy, which I don't really like coming into New York, but that would kind of be your main area to look for shorts. You just got to remember we're literally right at that strong 4-hour internal low now, so it's not the best value at all. I'd be pretty aggressive with any management, with any shorts that you do take. For longs, I want to at least see a break above that and then look to potentially play that bullish order flow up into this level. So yeah, could look for shorts from within here, but just not great value as it stands. Like the distal of this inside bar has already been mitigated. It's not amazing. So yeah, New York's not looking too good, but I'm not going to be trading it. I only trade London as things stand. So yeah, I will post some analysis shortly. But yeah, it's not looking too clean. Let's kind of get this back out and look at all the time frames together. Yeah, 4-hour chart's coming straight into that low, but probably expecting it to fail. Yeah, potentially could look for some CEs off these levels from within here. We've got some nice inducement for that level there. So yeah. But I would just be pretty aggressive in management. Like anything you take from within here, for most of you, I'd always recommend just taking fixed 5R anyway, get in and out. Otherwise, I wouldn't push it any further than that low if this is going to hold. But you just have to be mindful of where we are, right? We're right at the strong low at the moment. That said, we do actually, the 4 hours closed now, so we do actually have some 4-hour supply here with that candle there. So that's some decent confidence to look, just to play the continuation of this move really, and just keep following that bearish order flow. All right, guys, hopefully this is recorded well and the audio hasn't lost, otherwise I'm going to be pretty frustrated, but it is what it is. Hope you guys took some value from that, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.